Hey y'all, it's Cam again. So just was scrolling through, I don't know if it was Instagram or something, but anyway, um this lady, this Taylor Lorenz is basically saying that uh Luigi Mangione, the guy that killed Brian Thompson, is a morally good man. And I don't see how you can square that with what he did. We'll watch a couple of these clips and then we'll read through what he's been accused of. I've never looked through it. I've seen other people report on it or, bring it up, but I don't think anybody's gone through it line by line to see what all he was accused of. But let's listen to this. This is from Riley Gaines, but this is a CNN clip, and she's complaining because people are saying that she's wrong for what she's said about this guy, the Luigi dude. It's kind of sick when you think about it. I mean, some of them are hailing him as a hero. We'll also look at some of the comments too. That's always interesting to see. Sometimes you'll see people saying, "No, this person was evil," blah blah blah, and sometimes you'll be like, "Oh, because he was good looking, I guess," and that they'll be like, "Oh, I need to. He's innocent, or they don't need to find him guilty." Blah blah blah. Anyway, so let's listen to her, this crazy woman. She was saying something about was joyous at one point early on when this happened in December. But let's see it. Listen. Let me turn that up.
Hilarious to see these millionaire media pundits on TV clutching their pearls about someone standing a murderer when this is the United States of America, as if we don't lionize criminals, as if we don't have we don't stand murderers of all sorts and we give them Netflix shows. There's a huge disconnect between the narratives and angles that sort of mainstream media pushes and what the American public feels. And you see that in moments like this. And I can tell you, I saw the biggest audience growth that I've ever seen because people were like, oh, some journalist is actually speaking to the anger that we feel.
The women who got her outside court in New York.
So you're going to see women, especially, that feel like, oh my God, right? Like, here's this man who's revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome, who's young, who's smart. He's a person that seems that like this morally good man, which is hard to find.
She's sick. I mean, oh my gosh, that's not morally good, y'all. You don't go around killing people because you don't agree. Let's see here. So this person says we've reached the point where CNN reporters like Donnie will just sit there with the goofy grin on their face and nod their heads while a moron like Taylor Lorenz babbles insanely about morally good assassins that stalk people and execute them in cold blood. Wow, yeah. And then it says public criticism of Taylor Lorenz shooting a man in the face. Actually, I think he shot him in the back. I thought that's what happened. At least that's what I thought I saw from the video. I mean, she's sick. It says another insane take from one of the worst women in leftist media. Taylor Lorenz, your narcissism is showing. Um, Nobody cares. A monster is a monster. You don't sit around all day making money being a monster and then go home and magically not be a monster. You're divorced from reality, and you're also a monster and just covering for another one. I don't know what this person is, who they're referring to, but anyway, it says this person says the left is turning Luigi Mangione into the next Che Guevara. Worth looking up how that turned out in Cuba. And can Elon please put this woman on the next rocket to Mars? Thank you. Is this the same Taylor Lorenz who cries victim every time she gets called out? And where does CNN find all these crazy people with no moral compass? She has always been a detestable person. Taylor Lorenz is a poster child for irrelevance. Let me look at a couple more. I don't even care what else she said, but that was the main thing was this. The Babylon Bee says a terrified Luigi Mangione files, or Mangione, I've heard other people say it, file restraining order against Taylor Lorenz. What a freaking creep she is. And then Taylor Lorenz's two favorite hobbies are crying about her feelings and wishing harm on other people. So let me get this started back over.
You feel like any little piece of information that gets out on you will be used by the worst people on the internet to destroy your life. It's horrifying. I'm so sorry. Am I, when I say, do I wish someone dead, is that advocating for them to be killed? No, of course not. But am I going to shed tears? Of course, people are going to get a little carried away and celebrate, but they're celebrating because it feels like a victory.
It's not a victory to have somebody die because you don't agree with the way the company handles their business. The insurance company's there for catastrophic, situations, and sometimes they will deny it. But anyway, whatever. It's pretty sick that she's saying this. And then it says Taylor Lorenz says Luigi Mangione is morally a good man. I think the jabs have rotted her brain. Look at this shirt with like a saint on it, making him look like a saint. It says there's no bigger POS than Taylor Lorenz, glorifying and calling Luigi Mangione a morally good man for taking someone out is as trashy as it gets. Of course, CNN is going to broadcast it. Yes, they always seem to glorify death and destruction. Anyway, this person says this is absolute psychopath. Taylor Lorenz was writing for the New York Times until 3 years ago. Here she's calling Luigi Mangione a morally good man. It's disturbing. We'll do one more. It says Taylor Lorenz glorifies murderer Luigi Mangione. Let's see what the state of New York indicted this dude on. I've never looked through this. I don't know who has. I'm just sharing it because I just think, how can she say morally? I looked through some of this and I was like, wow. It says Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of New York, the people of the State of New York against Luigi Mangione, defendant. The grand jury of the County of New York, by this indictment, accuses the defendant of the crime of murder in the first degree in violation of penal law 12527, blah, 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 committed as follows. The defendant in the County of New York, on or about December 4, 2024, being more than 18 years old at the time of the commission of the murder, with intent to cause the death of another person, caused the death of Brian Thompson, and said person was killed in furtherance of an act of terrorism involving a violent act and acts dangerous to human life that were in violation of the criminal laws of this state or were intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, influence the policy of a unit of government by intimidation or coercion, and affect the conduct of a unit of government by murder, assassination, or kidnapping, committed the specific offense of murder in the second degree, and that defendant with intent to the death of another person caused the death of Brian Thompson. Third count, and the grand jury aforesaid by this indictment further accuses the defendant of the crime of murder in the second degree in violation of penal law 12525, committed as follows. The defendant in the County of New York, on or about December 4th, 2024, with intent to cause the death of another person, caused the death of Brian Thompson. Fourth count, and the grand jury aforesaid by this indictment further accuses the defendant of the crime of criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree in violation of penal law 265031B, an armed felony committed as follows. The defendant in the County of New York, on or about December 4th, 2024, possessed a loaded firearm with intent to use the same unlawfully against another person. Fifth count, and the grand jury aforesaid by this indictment further accuses the defendant of the crime of criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree in violation of penal law 26503 and then 3, an armed felony committed as follows. The defendant in the county of New York on or about December 4, 2024, possessed a loaded firearm, said possession not being in defendant's home or place of business. 6th count, and the grand jury aforesaid by this indictment further accuses the defendant of the crime of criminal possession of a weapon in the third degree in violation of penal law committed as follows. The defendant in the county of New York on or about December 4, 2024, possessed an assault weapon. 7th count, and the grand jury aforesaid by this indictment further accuses the defendant of the crime of criminal possession of a weapon in the third degree in violation of penal law 26502 committed as follows. The defendant in the county of New York on or about December 4th possessed a firearm silencer. 8th count, and the grand jury aforesaid by this indictment further accuses the defendant of the crime of criminal possession of a weapon in the third degree in violation of penal law 26502(8) committed as follows. The defendant in the county of New York on or about December 4, 2024, possessed a large capacity ammunition feeding device, to wit, a Glock magazine. The 9th count, and the grand jury aforesaid by this indictment further accuses the defendant of the crime of criminal possession of a weapon in the third degree in violation of penal law 265028 committed as follows. The defendant in the county of New York on or about 4th of 2024 possessed a large capacity ammunition feed device, to wit, a Magpul magazine. 10th count, and the grand jury aforesaid by this indictment further accuses the defendant of the crime of criminal possession of a weapon in the fourth degree in violation of penal law 265019 committed as follows. The defendant in the county of New York on or about December 4th, 2024, not being licensed as a gunsmith or dealer in firearms pursuant to penal law 400, and knowing that it was a ghost gun, possessed a ghost gun. Wow. Okay. 11th count, and the grand jury aforesaid by this indictment further accuses the defendant of the crime of criminal possession of a forged instrument in the second degree in violation of penal law 17025 committed as follows. The defendant in the county of New York on or about November 24th, 2024, knowing the instrument to be forged and with intent to defraud, deceive, and injure another, uttered and possessed a forged instrument, the same being and purporting to be and calculated to become and to represent, if completed, a written instrument officially issued and created by a public office, public servant, and government instrumentality, to wit, a New Jersey driver's license. Alvin L. Bragg Jr., District Attorney. We know him. And then the people of the state of New York, Luigi Mangione, defendant, wow, murder in the first, murder in the second, criminal possession of a weapon, second, third, fourth, and then forged driver's license. So all of those, and that chick is over here saying that he's a moral guy. Wow. Let's see. Here's this from the United States Attorney's Office, Southern District of New York. It says Luigi Mangione, charged with the stalking and murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson and use of a silencer in the crime of violence. Thursday, December 9th, 2024. The only reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's just weird that this girl just happened to pop back up, and it only seemed like it was like maybe 21 hours ago, 23 hours ago. when this was loaded up by Riley Gaines. So it's kind of weird. I'll just read this. It says acting U.S. Attorney Edward Y. Kim said Brian Thompson was gunned down in cold blood as he walked down a street in Midtown Manhattan. Thompson was allegedly killed just because he held the position of chief executive officer of a health insurance company. As alleged, Luigi Mangione traveled to New York to stalk and shoot Thompson in broad daylight in front of a Manhattan hotel, all in grossly misguided attempt to broadcast Mangione's views across the country. But this wasn't a debate, it was murder. And Mangione now faces federal charges. This office and its law enforcement partners remain steadfast in our commitment to fight violence in whatever form it takes. Let's see. Man, we can read through some of this. It says, as alleged in the complaint, over the course of the last several months, Mangione meticulously planned the execution of Brian Thompson in an effort to initiate a public discussion about the healthcare industry. Mangione targeted the victim, tracked his whereabouts, and traveled from out of state to New York City, where the victim was scheduled to attend the company's investor conference. After arriving in the city on November 24, 2024, more than 1 week before the murder, Mangione performed reconnaissance in the area around the victim's hotel and the conference venue where the victim was scheduled to speak. Using a false identification, Mangione checked into an Upper West Side hostel. It says in the early morning hours of December 4, 2024, Mangione traveled by bicycle from the Upper West Side to the area around West 54th Street and 6th Avenue, At approximately 6:45 a.m., Mangione strategically placed himself in between two cars on West 54th Street, and as the victim passed by, Mangione walked up behind the victim and fired several gunshots from a 9mm pistol, causing the victim's death. The pistol was equipped with what appeared to be a firearm sound suppressor or silencer. After the murder, Mangione fled on his bicycle northbound through Central Park and ultimately back to the Upper West Side. On December 9th, 2024, Mangione was arrested in Altoona, Pennsylvania, while he sat in a fast food restaurant after being recognized by one of the restaurant's workers. Members of the Altoona State Police Department confronted Mangione, who provided the same false identification that he used when checking in to the Upper West Side hostel. Mangione was also found in possession of, among other things, a 9mm pistol and a sound suppressor consistent with the weapon used to kill the victim. Mangione, 26, of, I guess it's Towson, Maryland, is charged with one count of using a firearm to commit murder, which carries a maximum potential sentence of death or life in prison, one count of interstate stalking resulting in death, which carries a maximum potential sentence of life in prison, one count of stalking through use of interstate facilities resulting in death, which carries a maximum potential sentence of life in prison, and one count of discharging a firearm that was equipped with the silencer in furtherance of a crime of violence, which carries a maximum potential sentence of life in prison and a mandatory minimum sentence of 30 years. The maximum and minimum potential sentences in this case are prescribed by Congress and are provided here for informational purposes only, as any sentencing of the defendant will be determined by the judge. We'll just go ahead and finish this. It says, Mr. Kim praised the outstanding investigative work of the FBI's Violent Crime Task Force and the NYPD. Mr. Kim also thanked the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, which has brought a separate prosecution against Mangione, which is currently expected to proceed to trial before the federal case. The case is being handled by the office's Violent and Organized Crime Unit. Assistant U.S. Attorney Dominic A. Gentile, June Zhang, I'm sorry if I'm messing that up, and Alexandra Messenger are in charge of the prosecution. The charges contained in the complaint are merely accusations, and the defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. Let's see here. I'm just kind of wondering where this girl's getting off that he's moral. I mean, I know innocent until proven guilty, blah blah blah. Let's look at any kind of recent updates. Let's just put in his name, Mangione. So I'm just curious. Yeah, here's this stupid thing. Taylor Lorenz defends Luigi Mangione, fangirls in glib CNN. Yeah, I mean, anyway, psychotic wench Taylor Lorenz blasted for praising alleged killer Luigi Mangione, and then Taylor Lorenz's heinous defense of Luigi Mangione as a morally good man discuss, I don't know, whoever this guy is. Okay, and I guess so 9 hours ago it says Luigi Mangione in court for first time since December. Mangione says U.S. bid to execute him is an Instagram stunt. I'm just going through some of the little headlines. It says Luigi Mangione, lawyers ask judge to block DOJ from seeking death penalty. Why not? I mean, why wouldn't they seek the death penalty? You killed somebody in cold blood. You shot the dude in the back. Police arrested a juror. Okay, that's nothing. And how Luigi Mangione led the debut of an off-Broadway revenge show. That's pretty sick. Luigi Nicholas Mangione, he already has his own Wikipedia page. Can y'all believe this? Is an American man who has been identified as the suspect in the killing of Brian Thompson, the CEO. This is pretty bad. I mean, who does this? The CEO of United Healthcare, Thompson, was shot to death in New York City on December 4th, 2024, following a nationwide manhunt. Mangione was arrested and arraigned in Altoona, Pennsylvania, 5 days after the shooting. Authorities say that when Mangione was apprehended, he was carrying a 3D printed pistol and a 3D printed suppressor, consistent with those used in the attack. A short handwritten letter criticizing the American healthcare system, an American passport, multiple fraudulent IDs, including one with the same name used to check into a hostel on the Upper West Side. This is just the same stuff. The charges against him: first-degree murder, criminal possession, and stalking. United States Attorney General Pam Bondi has directed federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty in Mangione's. I mean, I don't see why. And then Mangione has been described as the most debated and polarizing murder suspect in recent history. You know, if this guy was buck-toothed and ugly, there would be no question. They would be like, go ahead and let him die. But since he's somewhat attractive, I mean, whatever you want to say, because he has a certain look about him, that's why people are probably in favor of keeping him alive and looking at him as a folk hero, as it says here. It says since his arrest, he's been celebrated as a folk hero by supporters online. Opinion polls have found that American adult respondents are more likely than not to hold a negative view towards Mangione, with younger and liberal respondents being more likely than others to view him favorably. That's pretty sick. The support Mangione has generated has been connected to negative opinions of the health insurance industry and claim denial practices. The Thompson case has spurred growing calls for health insurance reform. Well, my thing is why did the damn government have to get in the middle of anything? Once the government gets involved in something, they screw it up. Let's read this. So Brian Thompson, Hold on. I don't want all of this. It says Brian Thompson, CEO of the American Health Insurance Company, United Healthcare, was shot and killed in Midtown Manhattan on December 4th, 2024. The shooting occurred early in the morning outside an entrance to the New York Hilton Midtown Hotel and was captured on video. Thompson was shot in the leg and back. Thompson was in the city to attend an annual investors meeting for United Healthcare's parent company, United Health Group. The suspect, initially described as a white man wearing a mask, fled the scene. The gunman was masked and had come to New York via a bus from Atlanta. The words delay, deny, and depose were written on the spent cases and an ejected cartridge. The three words are similar to delay, deny, and defend, a well-known phrase in the insurance industry, alluding to insurance companies' efforts to avoid paying claims. The suspect was seen as at a bus terminal after the killing. Hold on, let me see. I'm trying to see why, but I still don't really understand why he was having trouble. I guess it's not going to show us here. Anyway, I guess let's look at the personal life. That's probably all I need to know. Mangione resided at Surf Break, a co-living space in Honolulu, from January to June of 2022. Mangione has written that he suffers from spondylitis, he says, I don't even know, and Lyme disease. While he was living in Hawaii, his back pain worsened due to a surfing mishap, and he has expressed concerns to others about the pain. He reportedly underwent a spinal fusion surgery in July of 2023. He wrote on social media that the surgery went well. Police have stated that United Healthcare did not insure Mangione, so then why would he kill him? In the summer of 2024, Mangione stopped, posting on social media. On November 18th, 2024, his mother reported him missing to the San Francisco Police Department. She stated the family had not heard from him since July. Shortly after his backpacking trip to the East and Southeast Asia, Mangione's mother contacted the San Francisco Police Department because she believed that Mangione lived in San Francisco and still worked in TrueCar, which had an office there. Let's see. Let's see here. Upon Mangione's arrest, police said they found in his possession a 262-word handwritten document, which many media outlets characterized as a manifesto. The hidden handwritten document spoke to Mangione's motivation and mindset. According to NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch, journalist Ken Klippenstein published a transcription of the document police said was found on Mangione. Police confirmed the transcription was legitimate. The document reads, to the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. has the number one most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is it says indecipherable largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy. No, the reality is these have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space. And frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument, but many have illuminated the corruption and greed, e.g., Rosenthal and more, decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I'm the first to face it with such brutal honesty. The complaint filed by the U.S. Attorney's Southern District of New York calls the letter the Fed's letter because it is addressed to the Feds. The complaint filed by the U.S. Attorney's Office also stated, P.S. You can check serial numbers to verify this is all self-funded. My own ATM withdrawals, which is not shown in the document released by Klippenstein. Anyway, I just, I mean, pretty much he's admitted what he did, but it's kind of one of those things like, there's no way you can say he's moral. You go around killing somebody because you don't like. I mean, it's just you can't just go around killing people for that. But anyway, that's the information I pulled up for this thing. Whatever you want to make of it. I don't know when this guy's actually going to court. Maybe soon. Let's see, one more thing. It says Mangione has been noted for his perceived physical attractiveness, and Cara Alemo writing for Time, stated that he has become somewhat an online sex symbol. That is so weird. Anyway, I'm just gonna let this go, and y'all can check all this out. I'll link all this in the description, but I'll talk to y'all later. I'm done for the day. I've made enough videos. But y'all have a good one. I'll see y'all around. Like, share, and subscribe. See y'all. Bye.